You're on, Ma.
Hel-
Sure.
Hello, I'm Michelle. I'm Michelle Pettis. Thank you for joining in with us tonight for Let's Talk. Tonight, our conversation is around stress, mothers, and food. And I'm so excited to I will introduce our guest tonight, author Monica Best, as she talks to us about her new book, and we talk about the connection between stress, family, mothers, and food. And just off camera, we were having a conversation, and I was just saying, I mean, for most of us, probably the very first person after we left the hospital to feed us was likely our mothers.
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, for you that might be joining us for the very first time, just want to give you a little bit of background as to why we have these conversations on 7 o'clock on Sunday nights, or whenever you might happen to be seeing this. As like I said, my name is Michelle Pettis, and over the course of my lifetime, I have gained and lost over 700 pounds. And finally, 3 years ago, I figured out how to keep it off. And people that have not seen me for years and years and years, or for a long period of time, would see me and go, "Oh my God, what happened? What's your secret? What did you do?" And I can't say that it was one thing. It was a lot of different things. Just like it was a lot of different things that kept me obese and unhealthy for 42 years. It was a lot of stressors, a lot of things. There were a lot of things that helped me get on a path to wellness and health. And one of the most important things was being able to talk to people, was being able to get information from other people about how to live in a healthier fashion, to share where I was, to look at before and after pictures and get inspiration from the people that are around me. And so, since I felt like that was so important to me, what I like to do on Sunday nights at 7 o'clock is I like to bring inspiration in all forms around all different topics that are related to food. And most topics are related to food, as we'll see over time, and just get insight. Because sometimes all you need is just a nugget. All you need is just a nugget to get you through, to help you make a smarter decision, a decision that serves your interest in a healthier fashion. So if you've tuned in over the last couple of weeks, we've talked last week. We talked about stress, faith in food. We've talked about stress, success in food. We've talked about stress in your ex in food. We've talked about stress in reinventing yourself. And tonight, like I said, I'm so excited to have Monica Best on with us. She is a collaborating author in a new book around grieving. And our mothers, we all grieve differently, but certainly there are some connections, there are connections that we can all benefit from. So, Monica, I'm gonna let you introduce yourself, and we're gonna do some truth telling tonight. Monica.
Okay.
Okay.
So, yeah. So, my name is Monica Best. I am a co author on a book called We All Grieve Differently. It's 12 co authors, and we all are telling our stories about how the relationship we had with our moms, what led to her getting sick, in my case, and eventually passing away, how I dealt with the whole scenario during and after, and sometimes still deal with it. And just giving tips on how to let your grief, just let your grief flow. Don't try to hide your grief. Don't try to minimize it. It's best to just let your grief out. Because if you don't, you're only suppressing it, but it's only going to come out in different ways. It can cause traumatic experiences for you, which will lead to bad decision making or some decisions that you wish you could reverse.
Yes.
So,
So Monica, I just want to tell everybody right quickly, if you want to share this with other folk, you can share this on your Facebook page. If you want to check us out on I Am Brand New in the group, you can. If you want to follow us on YouTube, you can also check us out on YouTube as well. says all I am brand new now. So if you're getting something good out of this, please share it, and keep tuning in. All right, Monica, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean that's okay. So here's a copy of the book. Sorry.
Hmm.
This is how the book looks. All the co-authors are on the back. Oop. We all we all have a chapter, and after the chapter, there's a space to take notes. Also in the back, we have like a playlist of songs that meant something to us while we were with our moms and maybe their favorite songs. We also have like grief things that you can attend, articles, organizations, activities, sessions. Um, so I can't give away the whole book, but I will.
Well, so tell me this, Monica, what made you want to be a part of the project?
Me and my mom were very, very close, just like me and my daughters are. And it was like I could tell my mom anything. And so, I was the one who took care of her until she passed away. And one of my friends, Ladrine Howard Peterson, who is one of the visionaries, she had put something on Facebook that said, if if you're interested in being a co-author on a book about your mom, reach out. And so initially she was going to choose 10 people anyway. It was over 20 something people that were interested, but only 10 people showed up for the call. So
Mhm.
that was kind of perfect. But what made me do it is because I've been trying to find my purpose for a long time. And
Mhm.
I love helping people and I do it with ease, like like nothing. And so I knew it was revolved around helping and serving, but I just did not know what. And so when
Yes,
she
yes,
said the book, it's like a light bulb came on. And it was like, yes, this is one of the ways where you could fulfill your purpose. Because you're telling your story, but you're giving tips and all of that. And COVID has been gone on, and people have passed away, and people don't know how to deal with it. So,
right.
most of it was suddenly or just a whole lot of death during the COVID. And so
Yes,
that's what made me do it. And
yes.
the rest is history.
This book, and your purpose, is all the subject all really resonated with me because my mom died in 1981. I was really young. I was 23,
Mhm,
and we were close, but we didn't live together.
mhm,
And I what and I yeah, I wasn't. I didn't think she was going to die. I knew she was sick, but
mhm,
I remember the last time I saw her, she died from lymphoma, and I went to visit, and she had the bag. Remember, this is like 1981, so the bag was outside her body, and she was walking around, and I just remember like looking at her, and she got my hand, and she said, "I'm gonna be all right." I mean, that's like the last thing she said to me was, "I'm gonna be all right." And
mhm.
I'm just like I'm always seeing sunshine. I mean, it can be storming. I'm like, okay, I'm holding on to this. I'm gonna be all right.
Yeah.
And she'd been taken to the hospital in another city. I was in Texas. I was in Dallas, and she was taken to the hospital in San Antonio. But I still heard her, and I saw her saying, "I'm gonna be all right." And
Mhm.
my brother called me and said, "I think you need to come."
Okay.
And I went there, and she was unconscious, but she was alive. And maybe she died 20 minutes later. She 20 minutes later. And I remember like that whole process of just trying to like process the scenario
Mhm.
and going back to work and things trying to be normal, right? And a friend of mine, one of my very good friends, took me out to dinner, and she kept asking me questions about my mother while we were at dinner. She just kept picking at me, right? She just kept picking, picking, picking.
Mhm.
And at dinner, I like collapsed right in the middle of the restaurant. Ah! Just like all over the
Yeah.
table. And so she said, "Yeah, I did that on purpose because you hadn't cried. You needed to do that." And so she's like dragging me out of the restaurant. And I'm like, ah.
But you felt better, didn't you?
I
You felt a
did.
little better.
I did. So I mean, but as you talk about the grieving process, and as we talk about anything major that we go through in our lives, and I think about that scenario, I think about how important it is to have somebody like in your life that can see things that you need to see that you can't see yourself,
Yeah.
right? So I'm so grateful, for her that and that the grief thing is so so murky because I felt like I felt like then I needed to be strong, she needed to
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
um and we get those kind of messages all the time, and that's not it's normal. I mean, it's normal. Not how could you be strong in a situation like that?
It doesn't make sense.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
Because we
right,
try to
right.
be strong for everybody else. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, since I am such a server, sometimes I don't think about myself. Uh, but I'm learning better.
Yes. And so I know you don't want to give away the entire book, and I don't want you to give away the entire book, but I would like to if you can just like give us like a couple of tips, if you can share a couple of tips, that would be
Okay. So, one of the tips is don't let anyone tell you how to grieve. And that's the purpose of we all grieve differently. It's not we all grieve differently because we have different stories. We all grieve differently. Some people, like you was saying, some people deal with stuff they eat. I'm
mm-hmm,
the opposite. When I'm going through stuff, I don't eat.
mm-hmm,
And I'm already small framed, so that doesn't help.
mm-hmm,
So, some people start drinking a lot, or drugs, or porn, or misbehaving. Uh, I don't know, whatever your vice is, or whatever you use to make yourself feel better when you're down. And so I just tell people, grieve the way you grieve. Everybody don't cry. Like you might have needed that cry. Your friend knew that because she knew you. But
mm-hmm.
everybody doesn't like cry and be sad. And some people do it differently. And don't let nobody tell you how to grieve. Grieve
Yes,
the way you want to grieve.
yes.
No, just get it out. Whatever you do. And if you don't, another tip is if you don't have anybody, but you feel your body like you might need some help with it, please get help. Get you some therapy. Therapy is not a bad thing. To me,
Oh, yes,
yeah. I look
yes.
at therapy like you go to the eye doctor, you go to the dentist, you make your medical appointment every year, you check on everything else but your mental. Your
Mm-hmm,
mental plays a big part in your health.
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm,
please, if you feel like you need to talk to somebody, it's such a bad stigma sometimes. Especially in the Black community. I'm just gonna put it out there. Uh, you know,
mm-hmm.
you think you're crazy if you go see somebody. No, you're
Right,
crazy if you
right.
don't. To
Right.
me,
No, I will agree with you, and I will share with you that not long after that restaurant breakdown, I did go to I did go to therapy, right? I did
and
go
I'm
to
just
therapy.
learning. I'm
Yeah.
really just learning about therapy. I didn't necessarily need the therapy because I did get it out and I did talk about it. I had people I could talk to about it, and I have a strong faith in God. So I had
Mm-hmm.
that,
Mm-hmm.
but I still wish I would have known about going to therapy because I would have went. Because I do believe that I could have made some better decisions in my life. Because when you're grieving, just like when you're going through anything else, when you're stressed, you just tend to do stuff that you normally wouldn't do, or you
Right.
make decisions that you probably wouldn't have made if you had been thinking clearly.
Right.
And I
Right.
just learned about grief over the last 2 or 3 years because my daughter had just started going for something she was going through. And she used to come home and tell me little stuff like, Mom, see, this is emotional when I was coming up and da da da. And I used to be like, girl, what are you talking about? And so one day she said something and I was like, So I started going to therapy for myself. And it was amazing because when I started going to therapy, the therapist that I had a long waiting list. Somebody had referred
Mhm.
her to me. And when I called her, she was like, I have a long waiting list. She said, and I don't necessarily pick from the list like in order. I let God direct me of who to pick. And she said, I have 120 something people on my waiting list.
Wow.
But God told me that you needed me. And so I got in when other people had been waiting, just like
Wow.
that. And it was amazing. Like the stuff that she was telling me about trauma. And that's another thing. People think trauma is somebody got beat you upside the head or something like that. No, no, no. You could have got bullied or beat up on the playground when you was 4 years old. And if you never dealt with that, you suppressed it because that's the age where you start developing yourself.
Yes.
You
Oh,
think
you can just see it. It doesn't even have to happen to you.
exactly.
Hmm.
And so, yeah. And so that's trauma. And trauma can cause you to make it just taught me how to let me slow down. I'm fast talking.
No, that's okay.
It taught me how to understand why I am the way I am, and also how to make conscious decisions instead of subconscious.
Hmm.
Subconscious decisions I'm used to making off of how I grew up, or what I was taught, what I learned, and that might necessarily not be the best way to think about it. So, in other
Hmm.
words, it's like a pressure cooker to me.
Hmm. Hmm.
All the stuff comes up is the stuff that's at the top, and that stuff might not be good stuff. So
Uh-huh.
all that bad stuff get out, the good stuff can start coming forth. Because when you're under
Right,
pressure,
right,
what's in you gonna come out first. Whatever you've been
right.
feeding, if you've been feeding your flesh, then fleshly stuff is going to come out when you get into a situation. But if you've been feeding your spirit, then
Hmm.
you're gonna know how to deal with it on a spiritual basis first.
Hmm. That is so true. And that what you just said about the the connections, right? The connections and the things that happen when we were a kid and how we deal with certain things. That's the same thing that happens with food. We make these decisions or we move through how we manage food, and we a lot of times we just do it unconsciously.
Mm-hmm.
And part of my work and part of why I do Let's Talk and part of why I wrote my book is that what I figured out for myself is that I was eating too much of the wrong things for the wrong reasons, and I was doing it unconsciously.
Mm-hmm.
And if we in the end and the what I see through having these conversations is that and you just brought it up with what you said, this doesn't apply to food. It applies to the way that we live our life. It's just raising our awareness, being conscious about the decisions that we make. It's like I tell the people in my group, we need to ask ourselves these questions. Why am I eating this particular thing right now? Why this? Why now? I also say to ask another question: Is this the thing that will serve my body the best? Why am I choosing this if it's not the best thing for my body?
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing, those same questions just reframed, um, applied to everyday life, right? Why why am I doing this thing right now? Why am I buying this particular outfit right now when I have three more at home that look just like it?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, or why am I buying this instead of saving? Or why am I, why is to really get to the why of these decisions. And I think that no, I also think about, even when we think about grief, and I'm going to kind of flip over grief or any other sort of pain that we have, and you were talking about how we all grieve differently, is that what what I feel about grief is that, it is the place where that shows how little control we actually have.
Mm-hmm.
Because somebody dies, you can't bring them back, right? And it ultimately shines a light on our lack of power, and there's pain around it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we're in a kind of a society where we're not used to just like sitting with pain
Mm-hmm.
and knowing that we can work we can we can work our way through it. It can ease, right? But sometimes you have to feel it. And sometimes the thing to do is not to go to something that's going to ease it right away, that's going to mask it, or oh, I don't know, mask it is the only word, to cover it, to camouflage it.
Yeah.
And that's what, that's how, I think that the connection with food and grief happens so often. And I know, I'm from a small town in the South, right? People die. We had the wakes at the house when I was growing up. Some You found out somebody had passed away, everybody was baking a cake or a casserole. And
Mhm.
you were taking it to their house. And part of that, I think, was, all right, yeah, we want to show love and affection, but the, we can't do anything to solve the situation, but we can make this cake. We can feel some power in this. And sometimes, sometimes we just have to sit with it. Sometimes we just have to sit with it, right? Um, and I'm sorry, Monica. I just went off on a tangent, which I do sometimes.
That's fine. That's fine. It all ties in together.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay,
Yeah.
so you were telling us about some tips.
And so that was like two. I think I put five in the book. Um, and the other one was, seek your relationship with God. You know, I'm not telling nobody who to serve. You serve who you want to serve. But I'm just saying, make sure that I serve Jesus. So make sure that you serve in whoever you serve, whoever you believe in, and you get in the word. I get in the word of God for everything in my life. That's what helped me. I'm just gonna say that if I did not have a personal relationship with Jesus like I had, my own personal relationship, and knew him for myself, I don't I know it wouldn't have been the same outcome for me. Because I was
Were
too
there
close to my mother. I was too close.
were there certain scriptures that kept you centered, that you found comfort
Yeah.
in more than others?
Well, one of the scriptures in my book is Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the thoughts and plans that I have for you. Thoughts to uh I can't think of the whole thing right now because I'm a little nervous. But
That's right.
hold on for 1 second. It's in my book. I'm gonna get my book because I don't want to misquote it.
Okay,
And
and be sure and tell everybody where they can get your book. And Dr. Carlene Meyer, our producer and moderator, I think she will put that in the chat so
okay.
anybody can get it that wants to get it. And anybody that's watching while Monica is looking up the rest of her verse, if you have questions, please put your questions in the chat. We have another 30 minutes or so. We want to make sure that we answer everybody's questions. We want to have a good, lively discussion and speak to any questions that you might have about grief or food or stress or whatever may be on your mind.
So it's Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and to not harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. To me, that just settles it all for me. Like anything that happens to me is not a plan to hurt me, whether it's from the Lord or not from the Lord. The Lord gonna turn anything around and work it out for my good. He thinks of
Mm-hmm.
me. He loves me. That's why he has a plan for me. And the scripture that I use to end it is, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. That's Philippians 4:7. That's what I stood on with my mom to get me through it. That scripture right there. That took me through it. That because God gave me so much peace. Like literally, I grieved after. And
Mm-hmm.
I kind of was grieving during because I used to have my own little sessions where I go in my room and not let her see me, not let my mom see me, but I would go in my room and just cry out to God and just get it all out. And so that helped me to do that. But the peace that he gave me to be able to handle everything. I have other sisters, but I'm the oldest. And I'm the one who, basically did it all. And so I had to have peace to do that. That was hard. Look at the cat. It was hard to it was hard doing it. It was hard even seeing her like that go from a strong, uh, independent woman who had it all together and then have to be taken care of. And I don't think she liked it either. I like to say that my mom surrendered her life. I,
Hmm.
she took it. I believe she went to sleep, saw Jesus, and was like, I'm good."
Right, right. Uh-huh.
So
Hmm.
some of that is in the book too.
So do you have a sense of what the I'm not even sure exactly how to ask the question. It's like what the process, not really what the process is like, but what the length of time is like. Be because like I told you, my mom died in 1981, and she was a seamstress, and she taught me how to sew, right? And even now, when I go in fabric stores, I feel that, right? I
Mhm.
that like that, or if I'm in a fabric store and I see a mother and daughter, clearly a mother and daughter in the fabric store, something just kind of
Yeah.
settles on me. And that was 40 years
I don't think there is a time frame.
ago.
In my opinion and in my experience, there's not a time frame. I'm the same as you. I could see a mother and her kids, even when I'm with my kids.
Hmm.
I still see me and my mom, like me as my mom, you know,
Hmm.
and I look like her and I laugh like her. So sometimes I be doing stuff and I laugh at myself, or I might get a little emotional. I'll be like, you sound just like your mother. Yeah, and all of my aunts and stuff tell me when they see me on my mother's side, they always say, "Oh, you look just like Sharon. You sound just like Sharon." So there is no time. There is no time, and that's a part of when I say, "Don't let nobody tell you how to grieve. Don't let nobody tell you when how long it's going to take. There is no time. Don't let nobody put no time on you. As long as you're doing it healthy, like you're not in a depressed state, where you're trying to do something to yourself or something like that. As long as it's healthy, grieving." To me, is there's no time. My mom died in 1996. It don't have to be anything. I could just be doing something and have a memory and tears will come out. So
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
just take it. I get it. I do it. If that's what I need to do. When we were writing this book, I would sit down at the computer to write, look at it for 10 minutes, type 2 words, and get up. Literally, I was the morning. This was due like the day that it was due. I didn't literally turn all of my stuff until the morning because it was hard. It was hard to go down memory lane. Some stuff
Right.
I didn't want to think about anymore. They weren't necessarily bad, but I didn't like seeing her in certain ways, and so I didn't want to think about those things. So some of that stuff I pushed down and forgot. They was in a deep den, but I had to bring them all up. So that was
Mhm.
hard for me to do that. Like we were calling each other because we had accountability partners within the book, two people together or three people together. And me and my accountability partner was calling each other. And I was like, I can't do it. I called Ladrine, one of the visionaries, and I said, I ain't wrote nothing yet. I can't do it. She was like, What you mean you can't do it? I said, No, I'm going to do it, but it's just taking a long time. So I literally was at the last minute because I didn't want to. I was remembering a lot of stuff, and
what
I'm probably going to do a spinoff because I couldn't put everything into 2,500 words. You
what
know,
what what got you? I wouldn't call it writer's block, but what got you over the hump? I mean, what got you into the zone? I guess.
um, I kind of talk to myself. I ain't crazy though. I kind of have to talk myself through stuff. Um, I have to push myself when it's almost like encourage yourself. So I have to push myself when I don't really want to do something or deal with something. I have to push myself to make myself deal with it. And then my daughter is very instrumental in that. My oldest daughter, like she'd be like, "Come on, lady."
Uh-huh.
Get it
Uh-huh.
out. You gotta do it. And I got friends too that was pushing me. But at that, it's like in that midnight hour, I had to push myself. And I knew it was something that I needed to do to help other people, but it helped me as well. So I knew I had to do it.
What would you say has been the, I'd say like the, since you have written it, now that you look back on it, how would you say that it has helped you? If you can kind of pick some things out.
Because because I like to serve people and see people win and help people and push people. Um, this book, people have called me and sent me text messages telling me how, I didn't know all of that happened with you. And this book has helped me because it helped me I'm dealing with my mother. And, oh, I gave this book to so and they really loved it. It really helped them. People are telling me just how much of a blessing the
Oh,
book was to them, my story and then other people's story. Because, of course, it's a lot of other stories in there, but I'm going to push mine because that's what I know about. But then after they tell me that they've read mine, because that's what they say, well, we read yours first. I say, please read, because I know I haven't read the whole book, but we had times when we got together and talked about our stories to each other. So I know what's in here. And this book itself is a blessing. It's not just about the money for us. The primary reason for this book was to bless other people and
mm-hmm.
to help other people. It's like a ministry almost, to help other people
Yes.
get through. And so just knowing that it helped, if it just helped one person, I'm grateful.
So did you were said you had like an accountability partner, and you
Mhm.
all got together and talked about your chapters. So even though you haven't read them, you know about them. Did you find that um, like when I was in therapy, I did individual and group therapy,
Okay.
and one of the things that I loved about group therapy that group therapy helped me with was that I realized I wasn't the only one, and B, I found out people as bad as I thought my problems were, I saw people with worse. So so,
Yeah.
so anyway,
Yeah.
so I'm asking this question. So did you find that collaboration as you were, what did you get out of the circle of authors that you were working with?
I like meeting people, so I got to meet new people. And like you said, you think your story, you think you really going through something, and then you hear other people's stories, and you be like, "Oh my God!" Like that was one of the things I was saying to myself, "Dang." Compared to, I wasn't comparing, but it's just a normal thing.
Right.
Like, whoa, my story is kind of, you know, you would need to be in this book. I kind of said that to myself. Like during the process when we used to get together on those meetings every Thursday
Mhm.
and,
Uh-huh.
via the Zoom. And I used to say that sometimes. I used to be like, oh my God. So, but I knew it didn't stop me. It's not like, oh, my story ain't good enough. I just was like, oh, wow. When you hear other
Yeah.
people's stories, just like you said, it makes you think, well, your situation ain't bad as you thought it was. It's
Right.
always, and your story is your story. So never discount your story. That's what I had to tell myself. Don't discount your story because somebody else's story, your story is going to touch who God is intended it for it to touch. It's room
Right.
for everybody.
Right.
And
Right.
everybody, yeah. So that's what it did for me. It helped though. It did help to get together and know you got another group of women that you can sit around and talk to about it, and nobody's judging each other or, you know, talking bad about each other. Everybody genuinely cared about each other in this group. So, and we still do things. We haven't done anything together yet, but we have things planned that we're still going to do together. So.
So when you say you have things planned, are these things that you're planning for your readers, or things that you're just going to do together, or are there grief talks or grief workshops or anything like that on the horizon, or not necessarily?
Well, there's some grief workshops and stuff in the book, But we are collaborating on doing something. I don't know which direction it's going in yet, because the visionaries will put it out there, and then we'll work together. Um, but we definitely have. We're planning where we all going to get together, and so we each can sign our part of the book, like a pop up almost.
Mm-hmm.
All are going to be there, and so everybody who gets a book or has one already can come, and each author can sign. So we're thinking about doing that. Each author can sign their own page.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know what else yet. I just know that they say they're planning other things for us to do, to get together to help people. And it could be we might have a little grief session where we get together. You know how people have not plays, but you know how people have conferences.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Something like that might be on the horizon.
Okay. All right.
But that's one of my wishes.
Got
So
it. Got it. I want to just like circle back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier. Maybe you can provide some insight. We've talked a lot about therapy
mhm,
and counseling and accessing that. And there's like I think there's maybe it's COVID, maybe it's other things, but there's a heightened awareness or a growing acceptance of going to therapy now.
mhm,
And people are talking, it's more in conversation for sure.
mhm.
So my question is, do you have like a sense of how you know you need it?
Um, how would somebody else know they needed it, or how did I know I needed it?
Either way. Maybe how first of all how you knew you needed it. Yeah, how you
Well,
knew you
because
needed it.
when my daughter was going, she used to say stuff, make little comments like I was telling you earlier. Like she would say, "Mom, that's." I used to get angry sometimes a lot, and she used to be like, "Ma, you need some therapy." And I used to be like, "Girl, I don't need no therapy. What are you talking about?" But the more she told me about the stuff, not everything that she discussed with her therapy, but the stuff that she's learned, it made me more interested. And I was like, because I wonder about myself sometimes. Like, I wonder why I do that, or I wonder why that bothers me. Like, if
Mhm.
you really, if you really love yourself, you have asked yourself some questions that you don't
Mhm.
have the answers to, and that you can't find the answers to. And so, if you be real with yourself, you will know that you need to see somebody that might can help you. And there's no one. It's almost like how you do your doctors. You choose. I don't know how
Mhm.
you choose, but like I go for referrals, and I read stuff about the person and stuff like that, because I had tried a therapist before. I never went to the person. I literally spoke to the person on the phone and was like, "Oh no, they can't
Mhm.
help."
Mhm.
I mean, you know what you
Mhm.
need, right? It's like
Mhm.
when you go look for church homes, you know what you're looking for. Something that
Mhm.
appeal to somebody else might not be what you need. You might need,
Absolutely.
so you
Absolutely.
choose accordingly. You might not get it right the first time. Don't worry about it. Don't say, "Oh, I ain't going all of them the same." Don't do that, because just keep going till you find the one that you blend with, that can you feel
Right.
can help you.
Right. And I would echo that advice. I think that's great advice because I interviewed quite a few myself. Yeah,
Yeah.
my first time around, I interviewed quite a few, and I will say that I was actually just writing about this a couple of weeks ago. I interviewed quite a few. This, like I said, this was like I was like 1981 when I first started, but and it went through just like a period of cycles and years before I really found somebody. But I started with white men. I,
Mhm.
I I started with white men because that's what I saw on TV, right?
Mhm.
Um, but as I was interviewing, and I didn't know where to start, but I had enough sense to interview, and I was like you, I could feel this person doesn't really fit right, and I actually ended up with a black female psychiatrist,
Mhm.
but it took talking to the wrong ones. Not that they
Yeah.
weren't good at what they did; they were good for somebody. They just weren't the right fit for me.
Right.
And so this that was part of my process. And when I got there, my first sessions with her, I was so blocked I couldn't even talk to her.
Mm.
And I actually wrote like pages and pages for my first sessions. And when I went to my sessions, I would read to her. I would read to her because I couldn't talk. But as you can see, I got past
Yep.
that.
Yep. Whatever works. Whatever
but
works.
but it is you. I think that you're right that you've got to put the energy, pay attention to it, and the time to get somebody that fits with you. But also, I will share this. It's something that someone told me that if you get to a point where you ask yourself, I wonder if I need therapy. Yeah, I wonder if I need it. You likely do. Yeah,
Absolutely.
you
Yeah.
know, I wonder if I should see. Yeah, yeah, you probably should.
Yeah. And if you're questioning your own thoughts and your own
Right,
behaviors.
right, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's your first clue.
Yeah. Yeah. And
But
you never know what may come out. You never know what may come up. Because some things came up in one of my therapy, and I was like, huh? But then after I thought about it, I was like, oh yeah. When you start, it makes you think.
yeah, yeah.
The one I had was aggressive, and I loved it because I needed that. I don't need nobody that's gonna play with me. I'm not a play. Like I need it raw and I need it straight like that.
Mhm,
That's how
mhm,
I need it. I don't
mhm.
need
Like in your
nobody talking
face.
to me like I'm a baby. No, I need
Yeah,
you here.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. There, in one of the sessions that I do, um, but we talk about the fact that you cannot fix that which you do not face.
Oh,
And
that's good.
so that's the reality of it, whether we're talking about grief or whether we're talking about food or whatever we're talking about in life.
Mhm.
We got to face it. We got to look at it dead in the eye,
Yeah.
right? We got to just square off in front of it before we can do anything to fix it. So that's part of the work. So I want to
Yeah.
just encourage anybody, if anybody has any questions, put the questions in the chat. If you have any comments, we would love comments. If you want to get a copy of Monica's book, the book that she's a collaborator on, We All Grieve Differently. Monica, if you will give us the details on how people can get the book, we want to make sure
Okay.
that folks can get
Um,
that.
yeah, let me. Okay, so I have a link, but the link is to the publisher's website, and it once you click on the link, I'm gonna put it in here. Once you click on the link, it's gonna take you to their site, and you have to scroll down till you see my name, and then you have to click on my name, and it's gonna take you to PayPal. So if you don't have PayPal, you can Cash App me. I'm gonna put my Cash App in here, but when you Cash App me, just where it says for, they can put book and put their address, and I will mail the book. The book is $21.99, and it includes the shipping and the handling.
Okay.
And it will be autographed. I personalize my books. I don't just autograph them. I mean, even if I don't know the person, I just write something to them. So I'm gonna put my Cash App because I know that by heart. The public website, I'm gonna have to look at it. I can't copy and paste because I'm on a computer, not my phone.
Okay. Okay. The technology has us going someplace, right?
Yeah.
Oh man. So while Monica's doing that, I just want to encourage you, if you're watching, if you are not a part of the I Am Brand New Facebook group, please you can jump in and become a member of the group. And we talk about how to get brand new. And you get a brand new body, but you get a brand new mind. Because ultimately what what we what goes on inside our head and goes on in between our ears, that impacts what goes on the plate. And so we focus on focusing outside the plate, beyond the plate, about why we eat what we eat. That's it. Why we eat what we eat. And once we can get a handle on that, once we can figure out the story behind it, then it becomes much more easy. It becomes easier. It becomes easier to manage the things on the plate. So if you want to jump in the I Am Brand New Facebook group, you can do that. If you would like to message me, you can do that through Facebook. If you want to email me, I am brand new now at gmail.com. If you would like to download a free chapter of my book, Leaving Large, a food addict's memoir, how I won a 40-year battle over obesity, you can do that. You can download a free chapter. That'll get you on the list for receiving the book when it comes out, which, cross your fingers, it'll be sooner rather than later. And you can also follow me on Instagram, Instagram at I am brand new now. And if you're watching, I don't know if you're watching in the group or if you're watching on YouTube, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, I am brand new now, and you won't miss any of these Let's Talk conversations. And you can catch up on the Let's Talk conversations from weeks before. So So now you have all the different ways to get brand new, all the different ways to leave large. Monica has put her information into the chat, and we're starting to wind things down, but we're still gonna keep on going. We're still gonna keep on going. Are you still in there?
You see it?
Yes. I see it. Yeah, SheroPublishing.com.
Yes.
Compilation authors.
Hmm.
Yep, we got it. We got it. So, would you have any advice? This is a little different than what we've been talking about for the past few minutes. But for any advice for anybody that might want to write their own story.
Um, Make sure you have your stuff like already kind of written out, whether you've done journals or whatever. It's best to start somewhere. Like, don't say I want to write a book, but you haven't started writing. You know what I mean? You haven't started journaling or anything like that. Because when the time comes to do it and you get you a publisher, stuff is going to be moving. And you don't want to be like me. I never wanted to write a book. Let's just say that. And I never wanted to write a book. I never thought I had anything to write a book about. But when I was presented with this, I knew I did. I knew I had a story to tell. And I knew that it was important to get it out. So, but I wish I would have started writing stuff soon as I knew I was going to be in a book. And I did not. It would have made it kind of easier. But I felt like I know my story, so I don't have to write it. But that's still, even if it's your story, you still need to write it because you can look over it while you're writing it. And you'll be able to put it together quicker when it's time you'll be able to pull all your notes together and make a manuscript of what you want, as opposed to trying to do it at the last minute. Because even though it's up here, it should still be written down prior to. Yeah. And not saying you can't add to it later, but you should have something to start with. And just find you a good publisher, a publisher that does everything, a publisher that does the editing. I think the authors should have to just do nothing but participate in what is good for their book. They shouldn't have to worry about finding an editor, finding a marketer, and all of that. It should be like a package deal. So whoever you find, just make sure that all of that stuff is included. It's not a whole bunch of separate, like a la carte. Because it can get expensive if it is. I just think the company should have everything you need wrapped up in their company. So that's just my advice.
Got it. I will. It's interesting, and I'm glad that you said that about having everything written down as you start to write your story. As I was working on my book and doing my writing about food stories, and I don't know if you felt this when you were writing, but I found just a tremendous amount of healing and catharsis. And again, part of what I talk about in my training is that when people are on a journey, on a weight loss journey more specifically, there's this tendency to go directly to what can I eat? What
Yeah.
can I eat? I can have this, I need this amount of calories, I can have carbs, I can't have carbs, whatever, something that's prescriptive like that. And in every program that legitimate program out there, there's language around getting enough water, getting enough sleep, and journaling. And for 40 years, I never wrote. And I skipped those things. The drink, the sleep, and the write. I never did those things.
Mm-hmm.
And when I finally got got it right, when I finally got it right, the key to me getting it right was in the writing. The writing helped me manage the food. The writing helped me manage the sleep. It helped me manage the water. It helped me manage the calories. The writing was the most important thing.
Yeah.
In the writing was where I found the healing. And I'm not just talking about, okay, today I had, two scrambled eggs with no oil and some cantaloupe. For lunch,
Mm-hmm.
I had tuna salad. It wasn't writing like that. It
Right.
was writing about what it felt like to do that, right? What it felt like to have two eggs when I'm used to having 12 pancakes.
Yeah.
12 pancakes and eggs, not,
Yeah.
and a protein shake. So, like like I'm being deprived,
Yeah.
what it, but like it's not enough,
Mm-hmm.
like it should be more. Like this doesn't even really feel like breakfast, unless it doesn't feel like breakfast unless there are grits on the table,
Yeah.
right? And where does that come from, right? So it wasn't until I got into that writing piece of it that I found my healing. And I would suggest to anybody really that this watching, if you're watching, to 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 think about that, whether it's grief, whether it's food, whether it's something else. When you write it, you make it real.
Yeah.
When you write it down, you make it real. There's some energy that happens. There's some energy that happens when you have the pen or the pencil in your hand, and it's on the paper, and it goes to the brain, and it
Yep.
goes through the body, and it comes out through some sort of action or some raised awareness. And the only place you can get it, the only way to get that is through the writing of it. When
Mm-hmm.
it's something about reading the words on paper, right?
Yeah.
Reading the words on paper, seeing them in black and white or whatever color it happens to be, that makes it real. That
Mm-hmm.
that makes it real. Um, so you've given us some advice on writing. So thank you for that.
You're
Um,
welcome.
so any I asked about writing specifically, but any parting words of advice, anything that you want to share, that anything that we haven't covered that I haven't asked you about in these last moments that you're like, here's something I wish she'd asked me about, or I want to talk about, or it's on my heart to share.
Um, I just I just want to talk about taking care of yourself because really all the serving that I've done of taking care of everybody else, if I you really have to take care of yourself. And all of that what I've learned is because people will listen, people will use you, mishandle you, um, take advantage of your generosity and the fact that they know you might be a server. Uh, because put it like this: get paid for your services. I'm just saying, it's nothing wrong with helping somebody out, but that plan that God has for you, He has plans for you and ways to prosper you, and people don't even realize it. But you give your stuff away. He gave everybody a gift. Everybody has a measure of something. Everybody has a purpose and everybody has a gift. And there's nothing wrong with helping out somebody. But the way I feel about my life is it's my season to reap where I have sown. I've stood behind a lot of people's visions and helped a lot of people out. And I would still do it because that's my personality. But I'm about to become an entrepreneur and charge for my services. Uh, I've given enough stuff away. That's all I keep hearing. Like, it's your turn. It's your turn, you know? So it's my turn. There's nothing wrong with learning stuff. I learned a lot by serving, but now it's time for me to be served. How about that?
So,
If that
you know what? Now that you said it, I just want to unpack it a little bit more, right? So, do you feel like that what you're saying now is like a culmination of years, and so now you've got the expertise to kind of like step into that,
yeah.
or is it just like some new awareness, or what brought you to that conclusion?
It's new awareness, but it's also like, um, sometimes, well, for me, I was a little afraid to just step out there. I didn't really want to be out there. I wanted to be in the background. I don't care about being in the background. I'm an administrative by nature. Like, it's just something that I do. I can do with my eyes closed. All types of administration skills I have, and I've always had them. I've always been an organizer. Like, those kind of things I've always had. So I've always helped people. I've always liked to help. That is not going to change because that's me. That's in me. I just know how to go about it now. I know how to not be taken advantage of. And I'm not even really the person that you can just tell anything to or nothing like that. But sometimes in my helping, I allow myself, or have allowed myself, to, when you think about it, really be taken advantage of. It's kind of like manipulation for real, if you sit back and really think about it. I mean, I wasn't stupid, but I let my kindness be taken for granted. The fact that I do serve, and the fact that I do help, and the fact it just, to me, was taken for granted when I look back on some of the stuff that I did. And so I'm just like, no, it's my turn, it's my season, and I'm building my own empire. I'm building my own, and there's times when I will give away stuff, but I'm not giving away all my servitude. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I got a new attitude. I got a new perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I've always been the type of person that, will speak up for myself and something like that. So I wasn't taken advantage of like that. It's just that I didn't see some manipulation but behind some of the stuff, because I do like to serve and I do like to,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So that's all. Like, awareness too, though. Awareness too.
Yeah.
The older you get, if you're not learning and growing, you're stagnant. You're not even going to be able to go and reach the heights that you're supposed to reach and the stuff that God has for you, because you're not growing. You have to constantly grow, and you
Yes.
got to stop. Like, I had to stop just being so nice. And sometimes it was my own doing, because I used to volunteer myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I volunteer myself for little stuff, it turned into a big thing. And I look back and was like, I wasn't even supposed to be doing all this.
Right.
So now I've gotten to a point where, listen, okay, you want me to do this? Okay, so these are my prices. Yeah.
Right. Yes.
These are my prices, because I paid your prices. Now
Right.
it's time for you to pay my prices. And if you don't, that's fine. That means you ain't the one for me. My people, whoever is meant, you attract who you meant to attract.
Yes, absolutely.
It's enough people out here.
Oh, Monica, you I'm so glad. I'm so glad you said that. That is like the perfect nugget to end this. And the reason I'm saying that it is so perfect is because of this. Is that what I learned, what I learned in my weight loss journey,
Mm-hmm.
was that because I spent so much time battling my weight for decades, I was focused on that rather than how I could serve, right? I was focused on that rather than my gifts.
Yeah.
And finally losing weight and making peace with my body allowed me to step into my real peace, my real power, my pride, confidence, freedom, and joy.
Hmm.
And once we figure out that, and that's what this is all about, that's why it's so important to quell the battle, right?
Hmm.
To end the struggle, whether the struggle is with grief, whether it's with food, whether it's with stress, because all of that blocks us. All
Yeah.
of that blocks us from our purpose. So that,
Hmm.
and that's what we're all talking about. We're talking about how do we step into our real purpose? How do we step into our real passion? Well, we step into it by moving all this other stuff out of the way.
Hmm.
Whether it's 60 pounds, like I had to move out of the way, whether it's managing grief, whether it's managing stress, we find a way to move all these blockers, because on the other side of that stuff, on the
Hmm.
other side of that is where we're really supposed to live.
Yep.
We're supposed to live in joy. We're
Yep.
supposed to live in peace. We're
Hmm.
supposed to live in freedom. We're supposed to live in power. We're supposed to live in pride.
Yep.
And with that, I will say thank you so much, Miss Monica Best, for
You're
joining us tonight. You have been such a blessing to us. We all grieve differently. Pick it up, everybody. Get that book and drop down and click on Monica's name so it goes to her. Right.
welcome.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Dr. Colleen Meyer, moderator and producer extraordinaire. Appreciate your support on the technical end, and thank you for viewing tonight. We'll see you. We'll see you next Sunday, 7 o'clock. Let's talk.